Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Chronicle RuneScape Legends. You're not into RuneScape? Great, neither am I. So don't turn off just yet, because this is perhaps an issue, a game where it would be very easy to judge a book by its cover, as it were. The association with the RuneScape license can be something of a blessing and a curse, just like the association can be with any license. If that license happens to have a lot of strength, it happens to have existing following, then any sort of spin-off that uses that license has a natural leg up. Simultaneously, it is disadvantaged when dealing with people that either are apathetic to said license or don't like it, actively dislike it. And of course, it also runs into the problem of expectation. If you happen to really enjoy that particular IP, then your expectations of any kind of spin-off of it are going to be high, possibly unreasonably high, and they can be difficult to meet. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword when you create a spin-off based on an existing license. And I fall into the category of I don't play RuneScape and I don't care about RuneScape. And the last time I played RuneScape, I think I was quite literally 15 years old. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So I didn't really have much interest in this when I saw it. Thankfully, I decided to play it, and I'm kind of glad I did, because what we have here is surprisingly a very innovative and interesting card game that completely flips things around, completely changes the landscape, I suppose, when it comes to collectible card games, especially digital collectible card games, who are all at the moment chasing after that Hearthstone glory. You know, can they knock Hearthstone off its perch? Well, probably not, you know? And cloning Hearthstone is, in itself, somewhat pointless, simply because of the strength of Hearthstone as a game right now, and of course the strength of its brand. A lot of people like Warcraft. A lot of people have played Warcraft at some point. If they have any sort of association or familiarity with it, then Hearthstone will be a natural fit for them. RuneScape may very well struggle in that respect, but we shouldn't forget that RuneScape is actually a very big game. We don't hear all that much about it, but it's been around for a very long time. Not to mention that it is extremely popular. So, this is developed by the RuneScape devs Jagex. Or is it Jagex? Jagex? You know, I've never bothered to ask, so let's just go with all of them. You can pick whichever one you like, you know. And what they've done is they've created a card game which plays in a very different way to a lot of the other existing digital CCGs. It is quite unfamiliar territory, and that is a good thing. Before we explain why that is, let's have a quick look at the settings menu. It's a little bit anemic, honestly. They don't currently have the legend voices in, so this is all of the voice acting, I suppose, for the character classes. Although, there are some character lines in it. I wonder if they're either incomplete or they just don't have the option to turn that off yet. A little strange. Pick monitor 1 and 2, which is always nice. I like the fact that games are starting to integrate this. There are a few too many games that start on the wrong monitor or don't let you change to the one that you want, so that's always good. You got a windowed mode, full screen as well, and resolution goes up to 1080p. It doesn't go any higher than that, which is a little annoying. Actually, that's a complete lie. As it turns out, it does go higher than that. Well, that's weird, but it did get patched about 10-15 minutes ago, so they may have implemented higher resolution support today, because it certainly wasn't there yesterday. Well, you tricked me. How mean. If you go to Advanced, you'll see there are a couple of other options available as well, and Isotropic Filtering. You might think, why would you need that in a card game? Well, you'll see when you see how the terrain is presented, and Isotropic Filtering actually could be quite useful. A few different kinds of AA, SMAA, and 3 levels of MSAA, and shadows, depth of field, texture quality, high dynamic range, screen space, ambient obscurance, and VSync available as well. Not bad for a card game, right? Not too shabby whatsoever. I would certainly like to see a few other things in here, maybe something like animation speed, the ability to skip animations. Those are minor gripes, certainly. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually see the gameplay, and you'll see why that would be nice. But, I mean, Hearthstone doesn't really have many options either. It's not like this is exactly falling behind in that regard. So, play modes, you have the ability to play against the AI, and there's also, of course, a tutorial mode available for this game as well. You can play various levels of difficulty in solo. You can also play casual and ranked mode. Furthermore, there is what's called Dungeoneering Mode. This is unlocked once your overall account level reaches 15, which doesn't take too long, a few hours. And this is an arena mode. for all intents and purposes. You draft a deck of 30 cards, and you face others that have also done the same. You can lose a maximum of 2 games. If you lose a third, then that is it, you're out. And the maximum number that you can win is 12. And of course, your prize increases as you continue to go through the dungeon. It's actually a pretty cool little mode, and the drafting is a little different to Hearthstone. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Outside of that, you've got a stats mode right here, which is going to track everything. Win rates in ranked mode, current rank, highest rank, all that sort of thing, as well as the different levels of your so-called legends. There are 5 classes in the game right now. Ariane the Mage, the Raptor, Ozan the Thief, Linza the Blacksmith, and Vanascula the Vampire. These are the 5 different character classes, and as you level them up, very similar to the way Hearthstone works, you unlock a basic set of cards for them. All of the other cards, well, unsurprisingly, it being a CCG, are collected through the acquisition of card packs. You also have a couple of different card backs here, as you might imagine. And there's the global leaderboard, and overall progress in what's called skilling. So this will unlock different titles and icons for you, and these are achieved by doing different things in game. So, you know, if you get really good weapon equipment in game, you'll level up your smithing. If you use a lot of spells, you'll level up your magic, etc., etc. So if we want to go Hoarder, we can do that, and you also have a few different badges, so we could pick this one if we so desire. Alright, having a quick look at the store. So they use 2 kinds of currencies. They've got bronze or copper, I believe, which is the basic in-game currency. A booster pack costs 1,000 copper, and we will open one in a moment just to show you how that works. And they use platinum as their made-up fun bucks. It's a little annoying. I'm not a huge fan of the whole fun bucks idea. I prefer to just buy something for a set real money value. And in terms of how much this costs, well, if you buy 2 basic boosters, then a booster is about $1.50, just under that. The price goes down as you buy more. You know, there's 36 boosters available right there. 50 boosters is 2,800 platinum. Now, if you want to know how much that is in real money, well, you can get 3,300 platinum for $34.99. So 2,800, probably about, you know, $28 to $30, give or take, for 50 booster packs. Fairly similar to the pricing of Hearthstone. You also get the same number of cards in there as well. So if we open up a booster pack, we'll show you exactly what's going on with that. Spend some copper coins or whatever in order to do that. You will also unlock cards as you go through the game and level up your characters out of that basic set, but this is how you access everything that is not in the basic set. Nice little card animation there, and we get a stack, which is consisting of 5 cards, one of which I believe is guaranteed to be a rare. That is our rare for the one. The little green symbol indicates that, I believe. We got an Amulet of Fury, and we got some that we can use in all classes, and this one right here, this is for Ozan the Thief only. Nothing really out of the ordinary there, right? I mean, so far so good. Outside of the really cool little book animations right here, you might be thinking, well, this looks like Hearthstone. Well, it kind of isn't, as I said. So let's dive in and show you. I'll do a little bit with the collection later, but I'd like to show you exactly why it is not like Hearthstone. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of solo play. I'm going to play against a silver-ranked AI opponent. Every time you beat 5 of these, it gets you a free pack, so that's always nice. I assume that is not something you can repeat, but we'll fight against Linza the Blacksmith. Why not? And let's pick a deck. All right, I'm going to go with my expensive weapon deck. There we go. And we'll see how that goes. Alright, so the AI is relatively competent in this game, so you should be challenged, and here we are on the board. So you are given a fairly large selection of cards initially. You can have up to 7 in your opening hand. I think you can go up to a maximum of 10. You also draw 3 every turn as opposed to 1. So, first things first, a little bit of a mulligan. What do we want to keep? We want to keep that. That seems good. That seems good. That seems good. Get rid of the snapshot. Don't need that as of yet. And get rid of the dragon set. That's a little bit too expensive right now. You go away. Thank you. And draw a couple more. And here is where things get very, very different. First things first, look at that presentation. Really quite cool. So you actually get to see your opponent across the board, as it were. And the board consists of a magical storybook that shows the terrain of the level and all that sort of thing. It's actually really nice. You know, I think the overall theme and the aesthetic design of this game is an extremely strong component of it. However, this is where things get completely different. So you see those 4 little spots right there? Sort of little trail along to the end of the level. Well, these are 4 spots to place cards. So what you do is you do not play a card on your turn and spend mana to do it. No. You play up to 4 cards on your turn in a specific order. So, here's how we're going to do things. We're going to start with this fellow right here. He is going to give me 3 gold when I encounter him. He would also remove my weapon, but I don't have one, so nice easy way to gain a little bit of gold, which is one of the currencies in the game. You can see it tracked down there. These are used to play so-called support cards. The KGP agent. This is quite literally a penguin. One assumes this is some sort of in-joke from RuneScape that I don't fully understand. We could hit that. Alternatively, we could get some money and we could equip this awesome weapon. It costs 7 gold, but if I were to put down Pyramid Plunder, that gives me 4 gold and gives my opponent 2 gold, I suddenly have 7 gold, right? If I add those two together. So, I could pick up the Saradomin Godsword, which is a 7-2 weapon. I could do that, but I don't really have any big creatures in my hand to encounter. And you're saying, hang on a minute. What are you talking about? Like, you play a creature and it attacks the opponent, right? No. Nope. 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 Absolutely not. That's where things get very, very different. Actually, the creature attacks you. No, I'm serious. The creature actually, you fight it. So, you are actually playing cards for your adventurer to encounter on a little mini quest as you go through here. It's almost like playing a dungeon master, or kind of reminds me a little bit of Guild of Dungeoneering, for instance, where you actually built out the dungeon for yourself and played things for yourself to encounter. It's got a little bit of Hand of Fate in there as well. You're playing your own dungeon master. Such a strange idea, but there you go. And I'm going to take the gold sword at the end. All right, so I have played 4 cards for me to encounter. That's going to give me gold. That's going to give me gold. That's a penguin we're going to murder. And when we kill it, that's going to give me 1 base attack for the rest of the game. That's what that little fire indicator is. And I currently have 2 base attack, and it's got 2 health. So that means I'll be able to one-shot it before it can attack me back. That's a good thing, because otherwise it would hit me and hurt me. And at the end of this run, we're going to buy a piece of equipment. So we're going to encounter the gold sword, and we're going to have enough money to buy it. Hopefully. I say hopefully because the opponent could screw with us here. This is a great plan. In theory, this plan should work out perfectly, unless something goes wrong. So once we have selected our 4 cards, you don't have to play 4. You could play less, and sometimes you kind of have to because you don't have the cards that you have in your hand really that will work out. Then you click play. Notice the opponent has done exactly the same thing. So the opponent is encountering cards on her lane, and she just fought a white wolf, which did some damage to her, but it gave her some money, and it also gave her some cards. This just gave me some money. I move along to the next encounter. She grabs a weapon. I grab some money. And that's also going to give her some as well. I'm sure she'll be grateful for that. She actually then loses her weapon, which is kind of a little bit of a mistake somewhat, or maybe she just didn't care about that weapon. I get that. That gives me 1, and then I pick up this, and she's currently fighting a monster in the background there, and she's picked up a new weapon as a direct result of that, so no problem. But I pick up the God Sword, which increases my attack to 10. I can swing twice with this weapon. It has durability, kind of like Hearthstone, and that is the end of what's called a chapter. And this is a new chapter, and it creates a brand new terrain for you to move across, which, again, it's a wonderful little thematic element. Cool, right? Yeah, not too shabby whatsoever. So I have now powered up my character. I'm now on turn 2, and there are a maximum of 5 turns. Now, the question is, what do I do next? Well, I have this incredible weapon, but I don't really have anything incredible to kill with it. I can kill these gnome guards, though. It was a bit of a waste. Maybe picking up the weapon that early wasn't a great idea. And you can see, as a result, that you've kind of got to plan ahead. In fact, it's very important to plan ahead. Since the game has a finite number of things that you can do every game, forward planning is hugely important in this game. You can be somewhat reactionary to what your opponent is doing, absolutely, but only after you've seen sort of their first play. If you get an idea for what their deck does, you can maybe play cards that will screw with them. You can play cards that will affect the strength of their creatures. You can take money away from them. You can directly damage them. You can steal health and all sorts of things like that. And that can really screw up their plans. But unlike Hearthstone, which is a game about directly reacting on a turn-by-turn basis, this game is more about individual forward planning. And that, to me, makes it feel so much... what's the best way to describe it? It makes it feel completely different. There you go, nice and easy. To something like Hearthstone. It almost makes it feel less competitive, but it very clearly isn't. That's what I find very interesting about it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to attack the Gnome Guard. And we could then go after the Skeletal Warrior. I think we just get money here. I think that's maybe the best way. Kill a Skeletal Warrior. I could kill the Mystic, but it's like, hey, gain health equal to your gold. The thing is, I'm not going to take any health damage, so it doesn't matter. kill another known guard at the end, and then get money. So yeah, that's all we're going to do this turn. There we go. Turns out I'm going to take some damage from that troll chucker over there, so maybe getting that health back would have been good, but hey, never mind. It's all good. Not a big deal at the moment. It's a very unique experience. It's almost like, it feels like you're playing a board game, even though it is actually a competitive CCG. And you're asking, well, it doesn't look like you're really interacting with the opposing player. It doesn't look like you're competing. Well, you are. You're building up your strength for what could be potentially the final battle. Now, remember earlier when I said the game has a 5-turn limit? Well, it's got these 5 chapters, which means that you can play a maximum of 20 cards in any game, because there are 4 spots in every chapter. There are 5 chapters. Once you reach the end, assuming you haven't killed your opponent before then, you enter what's called the final battle. And that is going to take your stats into account, and you're going to fight each other. You're going to hit each other. You're going to take turns hitting each other, basically, until you kill the opponent. And that's how it works. Simple as that. Now, of course, it's possible to kill them before that happens. There are decks based on doing direct damage. There are decks based on screwing with your opponent so they end up dying to their own creatures. That's doable. You know, if you put down a very strong creature and then you can't beat it, it can kill you. And you can lose to your own card in this game. It's really unique. And I actually find it very compelling. It's quite strategic in the sense that this forward planning, and when a plan goes very well, you get a very satisfying feel. And that also brings an incredible element into the deck building. An element that is similar to other CCGs. You know, the concept of something like tempo, for instance, is a CCG concept. And the concept of mana curve, for instance, is a CCG concept. Alright, what should we do here? We could grab the dragon set immediately. We have the money for it. I'm thinking, like, kill the mystic first. Yeah, because that's going to get me my health back. There we go. Get a little bit of armor. I get the dragon set. Yeah. And you know what? That's actually all I'm going to do that turn. There we go. Just going to play 2 cards. So these concepts of curve, for instance, you know, in this game you don't really have a mana curve because you don't actually have mana. But you do have what could be considered a resource curve, because if you get too many expensive items in your deck that you can't afford to buy, then of course it's completely useless. Like if I get a bunch of stuff like the dragon set, which is an extremely expensive piece of equipment, but I can't pay the money to get it, then that card is a dead card. Oh god, now I'm going to get whacked for like 9. Ow, 10 in fact. Painful. And she just destroyed my weapon, which is even worse. Actually, that's not great. She's weakened it anyway. No, actually, never mind. She didn't. She did that to herself. That's all good. Disadvantage. If you have too many expensive things, then you won't be able to play them. If you have too many strong things, and you haven't built your deck to progress your characters, make your character strong enough to fight them, then you literally have cards in your hand that can kill you. Which I think is a highly entertaining concept. It's very, very unusual. Alright, shall we fight the Ulik Mommy? We should. I'll gain gold equal to my weapon attack, so I can gain 5 gold from that. Now I know I will have 5 gold later in the turn. I could equip the Dragon Scepter, but there's no point in doing that just yet. I can equip the armor. There we go. I could gain temporary attack and then battle my rival to do a little bit of damage back. That sounds good. Or alternatively, we can throw down both dragon arrows for 8 temporary attack and then hit the rival at the end. Alright, that sounds good. That's going to do a ton of damage to her. Going to take advantage of our current attack advantage. Alright, there we go. There's 1 and 2. This should take me up to 16, so I'm hopefully going to hit her in the face for 16 damage, which I think would be kind of great. She gets a swing at me, of course, as well, but this is totally worth it. Plus I get card draw from it. Whack. And there we go. And that draws a card. Unfortunately, that actually didn't go that well for me. So we're a little bit lower on health. I think she had a bit of armor when we went into that. We're now on, I believe, the final chapter, so let's not screw this up. I could maybe kill her this turn. I have 2 Undead Dragons in my hand. Remove 10 health from the rival. But as I was mentioning earlier, the concept of curve applies here. Can I fight it safely? Can I fight it and kill it without dying to it? I don't have 13 attack. I will take a hit from it and do 10 damage. If I fight it twice, If I kill 2 of these, that should kill her, assuming that she doesn't heal up or armor up in the process. I don't believe that armor deflects remove health, so this might work, but I'll probably need to... I'll need to equip a new weapon. Because I'm going to take 2 swings at this thing, and my weapon's going to burn out after 1. So I'm thinking, you know, is this... Can I pull this off? Or is there a way to maybe get the... equip the dragon set again? You know, that might help. That'll give me 12 armor going into the final fight. This is where all the decision-making comes in. And, of course, what I did previous to this really matters, because my character has built up from the start. This is why this whole theme of it being a mini-adventure is really interesting and compelling to me. It's not the sort of thing that you generally experience in a card game. It's almost RPG-like, and yet it is very clearly ACCG, and that, to me, is a great creativity. A great creativity. That is a clumsy sentence. Wow. Come on. Top grade criticism here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. To me, that's very creative, and it's an awesome pairing of mechanics and theme. Alright, what do we want to do here? I can kill the strike worm. It's going to give me 5 gold. That's going to take me up to 11. That'll let me buy the dragon scimitar. It wouldn't let me buy another dragon set. But I can go Desert Strike Worm, Dragon Scimitar, Undead Dragon. But the question is, will I win the final fight if I do that? She currently has 18 health. I have 13. I have more attack than she does. I mean, my priority really should be to armor up before the final fight. But I don't know if there's a way that I can afford it. Could be tricky. I could kill the Barbarian Warrior first and then go after the Strike Worm. But if I do that... Oh, I could do the Strike Worm and then the Barbarian Warrior. That is enough. No, that's 12. I need 13 gold. I can get 2 from the Undead Dragon, but I'm going to get smacked about by the Undead Dragon. Not as much as she's going to get smacked about by it, but I only have 4 card spaces to use here, so... It feels like a puzzle. That's an interesting element to it. You remember those old Magic the Gathering puzzles? I think they were called Magic the Puzzling, where it's like, can you figure out how to win with these cards in this position? That's almost like... I mean, this game is almost like that, but every turn. And I think that's a very unique feel that might very well be attractive to those who don't even usually enjoy CCGs. Obviously, if you're playing against the AI, you can also sit here and wait for as long as you want. But if you're playing against another opponent, well, you have a limited time to make your decisions. What is the best course of action? I could just armor up and grab the adamant armor. Fighting the Undead Dragon, again, just doesn't make a lot of sense right now. Killing the Strike Worm does. Let's put the Strike Worm down first. Okay, so if I kill the Strike Worm, that's going to take me up to 11. That's also going to use my weapon. So I need another weapon, which would be the Dragon Scimitar. I could then kill the Undead Dragon with the Dragon Scimitar. So that's going to do 4 damage. That's going to do 10. But I'm also going to take 6. So she'd be... I think that wins me the game, especially if I finish off with the adamant armor. Because unless I can kill both dragons, which I can't, you know, that's going to tell you, thankfully. If you're going to die to it, then it tells you, look, you're going to lose unless something else happens. So I think probably the best course of action for the best chance of success here would be to equip the adamant armor as my final thing and then just go for it. Alternatively, I could equip this barbarian weapon, which is going to give me a little bit more damage at the end because my weapon's going to be destroyed by then. So I'm going to take 2 swings with it and kill the Undead Dragon. You got to think like, what is the... This is where you've got to do mental arithmetic, which I think probably going with the armor is the best chance of success. All right, and then we just lock it in, see what happens, and hope that we did things right. She's going to heal herself up off that jubbly bird, which is a little annoying. I kill this. That also does give me 2 extra armor as well. That's something that I didn't consider. Grab the Dragon Scimitar. I mean, really killing that was kind of unnecessary because I had the money for the Dragon Scimitar anyway, but it is what it is. She's going to fight that, which is going to give her a buff. That's not good. I'm going to fight the Undead Dragon. I'm going to take some damage from that, but she's going to take 10. I don't know if we're going to win this. We might. Oh, she's gained more weapon attack. I think we've lost. Yep, we absolutely have. She now has 10 attack going into the final battle. And now we lose. There you go. Bam, bam, and
Whack.
Easier than I thought.
Unfortunate. Yeah, could have definitely played that one better. Killing the strike worm at the start actually didn't really help me. But so, you know, such is life. And the power of hindsight. But that's how the game plays out. And I think that that is a very entertaining little session, as it were. You know, it's almost like every session is its own little adventure. And of course, once you've done that, you can head back to your collection and go with a little bit of deck building. So we were looking at that deck earlier, and that was all about getting a bunch of money and getting some really expensive weapons and then trying to sort of use them. And that means you've got to have a good balance of strong creatures that you can fight with your weapons that will give you big benefits when you kill them, and enough money to actually buy the weapons in the first place. We could probably change this deck around a little bit. So this is the deck builder, and these are the cards that I currently have. You can switch between class-specific cards and the generic cards right there that can be equipped by anybody. It can also switch between support and creature cards. Those are your two different types, and you can very clearly see that they are split up in the deck list right here. The maximum deck size is 35, but you can play with as low as 30, so there's a little bit of flexibility there. You check this, it's going to tell you the various values, things like that. I think that building a deck in this game could be a little bit trickier than something like Hearthstone, because in Hearthstone you've got a reliable mana gain, so building a deck that has a proper mana curve is a lot simpler. Doing that in this game is not, because you've got to figure out various factors, like one, if I'm going to fight these creatures, at this point in the game, am I going to have enough attack to actually beat them? That's a consideration. So I don't want to put in too many powerful creatures, but simultaneously, if I put in a bunch of weak ones that don't really benefit me, then I'm not taking full advantage of my character's progression. Simultaneously, you've got to consider, well, I can put really great weapons in the deck, but if they're too expensive for me to buy, you know, as we saw at the end, I had problems buying my second dragon set. You might be thinking to yourself, well, is there a point in putting 2 dragon sets in there? Should I put maybe a cheaper weapon in there or something like that? Should I put something in that would give me a better benefit? The Undead Dragons came into play at the end, when I was able to do damage with them, but I wasn't really able to do too much with them. So, you know, maybe I could instead grab a much more powerful creature. You know, for instance, I could grab General Grador, kill him, and I get a 7/3 weapon. That's pretty powerful. Kill Kriara, and I get 3 temporary attack and a 6/2 weapon. Sergeant Grimspike does 6 damage to rival. That's pretty good. So if you've got a fairly strong weapon, you can whack that. But you've still got to think, well, at this stage in the game, even with a weapon, am I going to be strong enough to kill that without taking damage? And of course, your health is a resource that you can spend killing these creatures to gain a benefit too. You've also got to consider things like base attack. Do I have enough things in my deck to raise my base attack so that when I don't have a weapon, I can actually fight creatures? If you are found without a weapon, then you're not going to be able to kill anything tough because it's going to kill you first. So there's all sorts of different things to consider. Plus, of course, little elements like, hey, this creature allows you to strike the enemy. This creature is a debuff. This creature weakens another creature. And as a result, you've got to plan out your sequences in the game in real time, which I think, frankly, is absolutely phenomenal. It's a style of gameplay that has connected with me in a real way. I think that it is very entertaining, and I'm finding the planning phase to be incredibly satisfying, because when that plan comes together, or when you sabotage an enemy's plan, you get a great feeling of satisfaction. That's what the game allows you to do. It also does not have an RNG element outside of the card drawing. And yet, you know that you should be able to draw most of your deck, if not all of your deck, pretty much every time. Because you know you will be able to play a large number of cards because of how long the game is set to last. You know, dying in the first couple of turns is probably not going to happen. So you're going to get a chance to actually draw a good amount of your deck. You draw 3 cards every turn. There are also card draw mechanics in the game, so you can get more. And, of course, you start off with around 6 or 7. So that actually reduces variance a lot and reduces the random nature of card drawing. Plus, there are no cards that are like, do a random amount of damage, do this, accidentally blow yourself up. Those cards don't exist. They simply don't. The Hearthstone idea of wacky random fun is not here. It's not present. And for a lot of people, that is going to be a good thing. It is nice to make your strategy more reliable. That said, though, there's no doubt that having to play blind, especially in the first turn against your opponent, does make interacting with them and directly countering them a little bit trickier. There is definitely less interaction, less direct interaction, I feel, between the two opponents than a game like Hearthstone. That may be a black mark on the game for you. I don't know. Maybe you prefer more interaction. Maybe you just want to do your own thing. You know, this is why I think the game is kind of interesting for those who are maybe more casual fans of the CCG, in the same way that people are more casual fans of, say, a real-time strategy. I see a lot of casual gamers in RTS just really enjoy building a base and building up an army. They don't like to be rushed. They don't like to deal with anything like that. They just like building things. And weirdly enough, this particular card game lets you build a character up, and I think that actually might appeal to quite a few people. You can just kind of sit there powering up and fighting your own creatures and preparing yourself for the final battle, or you can get super aggressive. You know, both of those options are there. Cool. So the one other thing I'd like to show you would be the Dungeoneering Mode. So we're going to buy an entry to this mode because I would just like to show you how exactly it works. As it's a bit of a spin on the arena. It's quite similar to Hearthstone Arena, but the drafting process I think is a little bit better. From what I can tell, the drafting process guarantees a couple of cards of certain rarities, and also, instead of getting 3 cards and then picking one of them, you get 5 cards per draft, and you get to pick 2 of them. So again, making an effort to reduce variance seems to be a theme in this game. Generating a more consistent play experience seems to be a theme in this game. That is not a bad thing. I think almost from an objective level, reducing that level of variance would be a good way to design a card game. Some people are going to disagree with me, though, because, of course, hey, they love the random nature of Hearthstone. I do to some degree as well, but there's no doubt in my mind that it's also highly frustrating and it can be off-putting on both a casual and competitive level. Okay, what do I want to pick? So maybe pick Linda. We just lost to her, so why not? And here we go. So we start off with actually a legendary card, which is pretty cool. So we get to pick one of these, actually 2 of these 5 legendaries to go in here. So that's pretty cool. There's an 8/3 katana. That's crazy. That's a very, very powerful weapon. We could get Lady Zay, who is a pirate ship. Probably don't want to build a pirate deck, because you usually need something that generates so-called cannonballs as a resource. Full Dorok. So this is a piece of equipment that, when you are at 15 health or below, will give you 2 base attacks. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Set your health to match your rival's health. That is a crazy card. Killing that is very difficult. I probably wouldn't do that. Add 2 Zulrah scale. Gain gold equal to your hand size. That's interesting. Very, very strong, though. Can I fight something like that? We could try. Let's pick up that big weapon. There we go. So you pick 2, and then you draft into a few more. So I think you can see how it works. And otherwise, it works in the same way that the Hearthstone Arena does. So, my conclusion. Despite the fact that I'm not familiar with the theme, I found the overall aesthetic and the design to be very charming and very inviting. It almost has this sort of Elder Scrolls vibe to it. This warm hearth music, as I like to describe it. You might think, well, Hearthstone has hearth music. No, that's kind of a rowdy inn. This is more, you are relaxing in a fantasy tavern in a beautiful village far, far away from all troubles. Kind of gives me that vibe. And also the storybook aesthetic of everything. The way that each piece of terrain rises from the book. It gives this enchanted feeling of a fantasy adventure. So they've obviously poured a great deal into making this game look and feel awesome. It does feel somewhat premium. And I'll also say it reminds me of old school miniatures games. You notice the way that the enemies are kind of cardboard cutouts and sort of tilt at you to attack you as opposed to having any real animations, and how the characters that you're playing in the game are almost like painted miniatures. That's the kind of feel that it gave me. And I think that that's awesome, especially for someone of my age, actually. It's almost like this game was kind of created for people of my age that were used to playing those tabletop adventure games when they were younger. And it is very surprising indeed that I can find that overall aesthetic and the theme to be enticing when I don't play RuneScape. They've managed to dodge a bullet with that, I think. Outside of the obvious difficulty of marketing the game to people that don't play RuneScape, they have created a game where knowing the theme is not necessary to enjoy it. Absolutely not. Almost tempted to go with the whole pirates thing, but grab the Dust Devil there. There we go. In terms of its gameplay, it is a very unique game. It's very interesting to play. It's very different to what else is on the market. If you are sick of games like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, and yet you want to try another CCG that is not too difficult to learn, and of course uses familiar concepts, yet presents them and integrates them mechanically in a completely different way, not to mention a different way thematically, then the RuneScape card game is absolutely worthy of your attention. When it comes to the free-to-play model, it is difficult to say just how good it is. It's very similar to Hearthstone's. There are daily quests that you can do in order to gain the in-game currency to buy new cards. Of course, you get your basic card sets from leveling up, so that's very similar to the way Hearthstone works, but I don't know, for instance, how many of these cards are overpowered, how many of the cards are not, how expensive it would be to make a truly competitive deck. I just don't know, because, let's be honest, until you've played a huge amount of a game like this, it's not something that really comes to light so easily. That said, I've spent pretty much almost nothing on this game. There's a little starter pack that was $7 for 12 boosters, so I bought that. Outside of that, I haven't touched it, and I've been playing both the arena mode and the ranked mode. I've not really been having too many problems, although I imagine that as progress continues to occur, I will run into decks that are very strong, very well put together, and use a bunch of very powerful cards. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I feel that the collection of cards is quite interesting as well. You know, not only does it have a nice little sense of humor, I mean, for God's sake, I have the stack of sharks. It literally is just a stack of sharks, which will double my health if I happen to be at 15 or lower. There's a decent sense of humor, but there's also quite a large amount of creativity in what the cards can do. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that the game is so mechanically different to other CCGs, so it can actually do that. But it did it in such a way that it's not reliant on RNG. It's not reliant on the random nature of the game, which I think is a great thing indeed. What I'm saying is that I would encourage you to give it a try, even if you're not much of a CCG player, because you can play it on a very casual level and get more of a sort of Hand of Fate or Guild of Dungeoneering experience out of it. It obviously has a depth of strategy. It obviously has a metagame. It obviously has a competitive element. It obviously has all of the components that you would need in a CCG. It just doesn't feel like one. And I think to some people, that's going to be actually a really big advantage to get them to play it. Because a lot of people just don't like CCGs. Yet this just kind of doesn't feel like one. But it is. You know, it's a secret CCG. You know, it's an imposter. It's lying to you. It's a CCG in disguise. But I'm actually kind of grateful that it's doing that. As someone that plays a lot of CCGs, I've been hooked in, I think, by both the strength of the theme and how different it feels, while still allowing me to apply some of the things that I've learned from other games. There are a couple of things that I would like to see improved. I think the deck builder is not quite as, say, advanced as Hearthstone's. It can be a little bit tricky to build the decks. There are a couple of decks to sort of guide you in terms of theme, but maybe not enough. So it can be a little bit daunting upon starting the game when it comes to trying to build a deck. Although I have found this a little bit easier than other games like, say, Hex or Spellweavers when it comes to figuring out, look, this is what I need to do. Because you can logically plan, based on the cards that you've put into the deck, what you're going to do over the course of the turns. You can kind of play it out in your head. It's like, all right, well, you know, I've got this amount of gold. I check how much gold I've got. Okay, I've got this amount of gold. This is the amount of gold I need to spend. And then you sort of balance it up and say, all right, well, you know what? I've got too much gold. I don't have enough expensive items. Let's put some expensive items in there. And there's a nice bit of flexibility considering you can go up to 35 cards when it comes to deck building, and that also means that it's easier to build a 30-card deck because you can put extra cards in and then trim them out, which is something that you can't really do in Hearthstone. So that's a little bit of an advantage, but they could still do with working on their deck builder, putting in more filters and all sorts of things like that. You know, I think having the mana curve and all sorts of other stuff on the screen would be helpful as opposed to having to click on a separate button. Yeah, that would be kind of great. And I'd also like a way, if possible, to skip the animations. I've also noticed a few server issues yesterday when I was playing live on stream. I ran into a situation where the server was disconnecting my opponent, so I actually got a few free wins, which is cool. But it's not great. You know, that if that happened to you, you would no doubt be extremely upset about that. And I absolutely would not blame you at all. Incidentally, I'm just kind of picking random things here. So I know that experienced drafters are probably tearing their hair out at what I'm doing at the moment, but hey, it is what it is. We need to maybe a few more weapons. There we go. That might be good. Yeah. But I give it a try. I've enjoyed my time with it so far. I think that it is in a very unique place in the market. It's different enough to justify playing this over something like Hearthstone or Hex or Magic the Gathering. It's not a redundant game by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not muscling in by trying to ape other titles. And I can respect that a great deal. So, don't judge the book by its cover. I almost did. And had I, that would have been a huge mistake. I would strongly encourage you to give Chronicle RuneScape Legends a try, because you might find that it is a very, very interesting spin on the CCG formula. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then by all means do feel free to click the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button is right over there. And I'll see you next time.